You're watching and listening to Fat Bidin Knows Everything. It's called Fat Bidin Knows Everything because I just know everything. Okay, this week what I want to talk about is the national budget that has been tabled in Parliament and now it is being debated. This week's episode is brought to you by Cream Puffs from Cullah. Okay, we know that Parliament has gone into session about 2 weeks ago, or early last week. Right, it's going into its second week now. And if you watch my previous Fat Bidin Knows Everything episode, you would know there was a little bit of a political crisis. If you follow the news, you would know there has been a little bit of a political crisis with the intention of the government to call for emergency, and then the Agong said no, cannot call for emergency, and they wanted to table a motion of no vote. They wanted to table a motion of no confidence towards the Prime Minister, and that didn't happen either. And the Prime Minister is scared that the budget will not be approved. When the Agong said you cannot declare emergency, he wanted all the parliamentarians to actually agree on a budget. Now, I recently wrote an article saying that there is no unity budget right now, because just because the Agong says that the budget has to be approved doesn't mean that the current government right now can just come up with any kind of budget so that it gets approved, like just gets approved without any check and balance. No, I don't think that was what the Agong meant. I think what he meant was everybody needs to come together and discuss. Whether you're the government or you're in the opposition, discuss and come up with a budget that everybody can agree with. But no, the government went about doing their own budget. They consulted with the opposition. They invited like a small committee to have a meeting for a couple of hours. None of the things that the opposition proposed was actually incorporated into the budget. And the opposition said they're not going to pass a bill like that. They're not going to pass the budget if it's none of their proposals is going to be in it. So now here's the thing. The budget has already been tabled by our Finance Minister, Tengku Zafrul. A lot of things have been said about it. Will it actually be passed? Can it actually be passed? Right? You read the news, the opposition has been criticizing the budget. One of the biggest criticisms to come out of the budget is the 85.5 million ringgit allocation for JASA. Now, JASA used to be under the Barisan Nasional government, used to be the propaganda machine of the government, of Barisan Nasional. Right? But since Pakatan Harapan took over the government, they had, they shut down JASA. But now it looks like JASA is back. Although the government says it's not supposed to be a propaganda machine, but who knows? They can do anything they want with 85.5 million ringgit. So the opposition is not happy with that. There are other things in the budget that people are not too happy about as well. Now, I'm not going to comment about it here. You can go and read it in the news, right? Even members of Barisan Nasional like Najib Razak, right? Every time I'm going to mention the name Najib Razak, I'm going to say Najib Razak, right? Has also criticized the budget, right? So what's going to happen now? Now here's the process, right? When the budget gets tabled, it will go through the normal process of any bill that is going to be passed and debated and tabled in Parliament, right? It's tabled and then they'll go for 2-3 readings, debated again, and then the MPs will start voting if they want the bill to be approved or not. So it's only been less than a week since the budget was tabled. We are going to see it being, it's going to be debated again for several more weeks, maybe a month, maybe even 2 months. See how long, right? For first reading, second reading, maybe even third reading before it is passed. Now, during this period, it's called a debate. So the MPs can debate it, and it doesn't mean that the budget cannot be changed, right? So take note, Perikatan Nasional. You can still change the budget and accept amendments made by other parties, right? Discuss in Parliament. This is the process where you're supposed to do it, right? Now, some right-wing media in Malaysia, news organizations, right-wing news organizations, right, the ones who are kind of supporting the government that's in power right now, they have been trying to accuse MPs who would vote against the budget by saying that they are not putting people first, they're not putting the country first, they're putting their party first, and they're putting politics first. I don't see it that way, okay? MPs can vote however they want to vote, depending on how they feel that bill is, okay? Of course, these politicians and MPs, when they vote, they need to think of the people lah, right? Now, I would say use this opportunity to discuss and change the budget. Well, not change, but amend the budget, fine-tune the budget until everybody is happy and everybody can agree to the budget, to everything that is contained in it. Alright? Then put it to a vote. Everybody is happy with it. They can vote it. They can pass it. Right? Because if they don't make any amendments, I think it is every right of the opposition or anybody who is criticizing the budget to not vote for it. Even if the Agong has said that it needs to be passed, because like I said, I do not believe that the Agong said just pass it anyhow it is, right? I think the Agong really meant that everybody needed to discuss. Now, what happens if it doesn't get passed? Now, if it doesn't get passed, this is going to be the first time in history in Malaysia where a national budget is not passed. And when it's not passed, it is a big show of no confidence towards the Prime Minister. Most probably, if that happens, I'm going to predict that there will be fresh, new general elections. Right? Because it just means that the government has no control. And the Prime Minister has no authority. Right? Nobody has confidence in the Prime Minister. It means that there's no support. Because this is the national budget. Right? So it's going to be elections. But if it does get approved, then the government can continue. Because if it's not approved, then there's no budget, right? How are you going to move? How are you going to move forward? Yeah. So I am actually, this is my call. This is my call out there for all the MPs and all the politicians. We've already had no say. Malaysians had already no say in the last year about anything. From the Sheraton move, the Malaysian public and people had no say in it. Then after that, the Meridian move that Anna wanted to do, Malaysians had no say in it. The declaration of the intention to declare emergency, the people had no say in it. The Agong said, cannot have an emergency. Actually, the Malaysian people had no say in it either. Now with this budget, do the people actually have a say? Now, that's my call lah. Listen to the people. Put everything aside. Just debate this properly and adjust the budget to something that everybody can agree on, that is good enough for Malaysia and good enough for the people at this current time. Right? Yeah. Okay, so that is what I wanted to say today. For those of you who are listening and watching, what do you think? Do you think our MPs are mature enough to set everything aside and actually come up with a unity budget that can satisfy everybody's needs in Malaysia? Let me know what you think, okay? Comment below. Let me know. I really want to know what Malaysians out there think. Okay, so now we're going on to the segment where it's not the segment where I highlight something that I find interesting, but I'm going to answer a question that one of you out there has posed to me. Right? Now, one of my viewers on YouTube, let's see, it's called Shake Hidayat, posed a question to me on one of my videos, wanting to find out what I have to say about the US elections. I can tape a whole separate episode about what I think about the US elections, but I'm not going to do that because, I don't know, maybe I don't feel so passionate about it. It's a different country. It's not my country, right? But I do understand why a lot of people around the world find it relevant, the US presidential elections, right? Between Bidin and Trump and all that, because US is a superpower. They're one of the big economies in Malaysia. They are one of the big economies in the world, right? So they have a lot of influence, right? So whenever there's a presidential election, and it depends who gets elected president, it affects everyone. Because remember when Trump was elected the president of the US, it affected a lot of people, right? I remember I was in the flight to the US when Trump was just elected. I was in a flight going to Los Angeles I was going there for I was workshopping a film. I was going to LA to workshop a film, right? Thank you for the support, the US Embassy in Kuala Lumpur. And President Trump signed an executive order, right, to ban visitors or people coming in from 7 Muslim countries, right? And as soon as I didn't know, I was in a plane, I didn't know it happened. As soon as I landed in LA airport, right, the Los Angeles International Airport, I landed. I saw lawyers, I saw people protesting, people crying and all that. Apparently, some people who had arrived from these 7 countries, they were not allowed out of the airport, right? And I arrived into LA at the LA airport to like protest and demonstration. Then I found out that he had signed that executive order. See, so what I'm trying to say is that the US has a lot of influence in the world. So yeah, so I guess it is relevant if you do want to talk about the presidential elections in the US. Now, I'm going to link to the. I did a documentary, okay, about the protests at the LA airport. I'll link it here, you know, in the card section, and you can search the YouTube channel, look for it, right? It's under the We the People playlist. So I don't know. I see that there is not much difference between the United States and Malaysia right now. If you see how the elections came out, yes, Joe Biden has won by a clear margin, but not necessarily a landslide. And you can see that the country is actually very, very much almost equally divided. Okay, there are 2 parts to the country now. The country is divided into 2. And I think Malaysia is exactly the same way, right? We are very, very divided. Look at the number of MPs in parliament and who is supporting who. Apparently, Muhyiddin's government, Perikatan Nasional, only has a 2-seat majority. That is a very, very unstable government. In the US, it's slightly more stable, but still, you know, still quite in the middle, you know. And it means that the country is not united, and it's very clearly apart, right? So, like Joe Biden said, and Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris, right? The Vice President has said that it's time for them to heal, right? I think Malaysia needs to do that too. I really think that we need to call for fresh elections, right? To put the people back into power, into having a say. This is Malaysia lah. Now, in the US, I've always said that one party who is the ruling party cannot have too much of a majority, because then they would rule almost with like full power, and that's crazy, right? There needs to be slightly more of a balance between the ruling party and the opposition. But in Malaysia, the 2-seat advantage is just too small, and that just makes it too unstable. Okay, too unstable, and that shouldn't be either. So I don't know, I'm of the opinion that we need to call for fresh general elections up. In the US, it's not so bad, right? But still divided, and I'm hoping to see that. Look, I like America. I grew up there for a short amount of time during when I was a kid, and I've visited the country many times. And I don't know, a lot of I'm influenced by America, right? So I still see it as a country that I do like, and I want the best for them, right? So yeah, that's my take. I hope that in the next 4 years, under this new president and vice president, this new leadership, that things will improve for them. You know, fix the things that were broken the last 4 years, right? So yeah, that's my take. So Shakir Hidayat, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so that's it. Alright, you've been watching and listen. Whoa, thumbs up if you like this video, thumbs down if you don't like it. Comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all our social media platforms. It's @FatBidin, or go to fatbidin.com to get everything. You've been watching and listening to Fat Bidin Film Club. I've got 3 kids, 1 wife, and me to support. So you've got to, like, you know, help fund my life. So you actually can go to the Fat Bidin e-store, right? I'm gonna link it below. Right? And you can get actually like Fat Bidin merchandise, right? And most of it are actually books lah. I used to sell DVDs and films and all that, but hey, everything's available on YouTube now. So now if you want to get Fat Bidin merchandise, it's mostly books. So I've got books here. See, like this book. This is called The Adventures of a KLite in Afghanistan. It's a graphic novel. See, graphic novel which I wrote and illustrated with my buddy Apan, right? It's a non-fiction one. It's about my time in Afghanistan shooting a documentary for a month when I was there. See, I'm a war journalist, right? So it's a really good book, right? I've got this non-fiction novel. It's called
Operation Nasi Kerabu, Finding Patani in an Islamic Insurgency. This book I wrote because I spent some time in southern Thailand where there's a war there. You all know there's a war there, right? In Patani, right? I shot a documentary there which was banned for broadcast. But hey, they allowed me to publish a book, and if you get the book, there is a QR code at the back, right? There's a QR code at the back which allows you to watch it for free online. Oh, where's the QR code? Where's the QR code? Ah, there's the QR code, right? It's online, meaning you scan the QR code, you go to my YouTube channel. Okay, I've got another book. This is called Journo Dad, The Chronicles of a Journalist Who Happens to Be a Father. It's a compilation of my articles, my column when I was writing for the Malaysian Insider. It's all about like me being a journalist and raising a family at the same time. It's really funny. It's funny. My best-selling book, Liberal, Malay and Malaysian, Writings of a Walking Contradiction. This is a compilation also of my column in the Malaysian Insider. This one focuses more on like politics, race, demonstration, democracy and religion and things like that. It's funny too. All my books are funny because I'm a funny guy, right? Yes, I am. And if you like films, I sell this book. See, I wrote this book with my buddy Wan Chun Hong. It's a guide to filmmaking, indie filmmaking. Every chapter talks about one aspect of filmmaking, and every chapter also interviews one like really prominent Malaysian filmmaker. It's really good. You can get all these books at the Fat Bidin e-store. Come on, feed my kids.